Trust. Ego up. Shut. Ego. I'm gonna have a little curve to me. Ain't nothing. We gonna be curved a little bit tonight. Can't do nothing about that. That's gonna annoy me. I know you guys probably won't even recognize it, but it's gonna annoy the crap out of me. Gonna go up. Shout out to the fan club. I got those people in the fan club. 2 people in the fan bam. That's what's up. What's up, guys? I'm on here a little bit early tonight. We get started. What's up, Rachel? We get started at 7, but I wanted to come here early, man. Last time we had a really good time. It was our biggest one yet, so I wanted to come early, chop it up with people for a little bit. I think that's what I'm going to start doing. I think I'm going to start coming on here early and just chopping it up with people before we get started. Maybe 10, 15 minutes early. Ooh, wait a second. We're going to have to charge the little phone now. Give me a second here. There we go. Have to charge the phone a little bit. But we get started at 7 p.m., top of the hour. Man, I'm feeling good. Tonight is, believe it or not, one of the first nights that I'm 100% prepared. So I public speaking is my thing. Like, I find public speaking easier than like one-on-one speaking. And so probably 99% of the time where I'm doing some type of public speaking like this, I'm never 100% prepared. I'm always going off the cuff. Like, some of these I come on here and I'll be doing, like, y'all don't know, but I'll be doing like 40% off the dome, right? Even when I got my notes. So this is like one of the first nights where, like, I got a chance in like a long time to prepare like my whole lesson out, got it done, know what I'm gonna say. Because typically I come up here and there's always an aspect of it. But that's also why I like public speaking. Like, even with my notes, like, these are all my notes for what do I normally speak for, like 20 to 35 minutes. 1, 2, and then I think I got, yeah, just 1. So that's like all my notes for like 30 minutes. Like, if I do like a fully prepared out lesson. But in the past, like, I be coming on here like barely be having everything together. But we gonna start at the top of the hour. I just wanted to come on early to chop it up with you guys. But we gonna get started right at the top of the hour. Say what's up. Say hello. I'm here early to talk to someone that's not myself, since I'm gonna be talking to myself for about 30 minutes. Say what's up. How's everybody doing? Grab you some pen and paper, bro. Tonight's gonna be good. Thank you. Hit the like button. What's your least favorite farm animal? Least favorite farm animal? For some reason, the pig came to my head. A pig, but I don't think that's true though, because I like bacon, and like, I hear like if you need to get rid of somebody, like, pigs are the way to go. So I don't know if it's pigs. Horses seem like they'd be cool to ride. Cows. No, we get steak from cows, don't we? We get steak from cows. Roosters, they're annoying. They can go. Roosters can go. Roosters can get out of here, for sure. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button, sharing. We're going to get started at the top of the hour. Good question. More questions like that. I like that. Thank you, Mia. We're going to start at the top of the hour. National Unity Conference. Welcome to the nuke. I told somebody today about this. I said, I host this because I was typing it out. So when you type it out, an abbreviation is NUC. And I was trying to help people understand it's pronounced nuke. The nuke. Like, this is how I feel about it. Like, us coming together and unifying it, that's the nuclear weapon. Like, that's World War III right there. Like, there's no defense against a unified people. Like, there's nothing you can do about it. Like, if the people come together and they're willing to put their differences to the side, that's something we're not going to talk about tonight. But one of the things I do want to go deep on, and if you guys want more of these, let me know. I I opened a Discord. I started a Discord. So I need to put that on mercyformaya.com. I'll put that, hit the like button if you want to join the Discord, because I think I think we can do more of these. And because I'm thinking about doing it like maybe in the mornings. I don't know, but I just want to know, like, if I do these more, will people show up either online or offline? I also want to go on the road with these things. I want to get out of my car, and I want to be able to come hit the road, see you guys in person, because that's where the unity happens. When we can sit together, chop it up, have meals together, talk about the plans, take this online stuff, take it offline. That's where the magic starts happening. That's where the real unity and everything starts happening, and where it gets real good. Oh, but one of the things I was talking about was that one of the things that eventually, like, we in this pro-human society that we want, is we got to start to understand. And tonight I'm going to start peeling back the layer a little bit, but we really need to go deep into this. I've shared this before of how, like, all of our labels are really a response to the oppressive system that we live under, right? So I tell people this all the time. I genuinely do not believe that the people who are destroying the country right now, I don't believe they can I don't believe they could teach you about fascism. I don't think they could teach you about capitalism. I don't even think they could teach you about racism. I think that we, the oppressed, are using language to describe what we're going through. And we have to use the oppressor's language. I talk about this in the manifesto of how we got to manipulate the manipulator, and how the fight was never for equality, but equality was the language that the oppressor understood and used. So we had to use that language. But the goal is never equality, because equality is just not real. We just want all people to be recognized as humans. And so eventually, in order to do that, in order for all of us to be recognized as humans, we're going to have to stop. We're going to have to let go of a lot of these labels. Like, I love being black. I love being black. But blackness exists for the sole purpose of white supremacy. Like, you see what I'm saying? Like, as much as I love blackness, I love being black, it gives me identity. At some point, I got to accept that, if we want a pro-human society, the labels, it don't matter what you look like, it don't matter your skin color, none of that, it literally does not matter, right? Professional sports is black privilege. Nah, when y'all just open it up, we just kicked y'all butts. Like, this is what I'm saying. It's not black privilege. It's just that, and we're going to talk about it tonight, that, like, white supremacy and America itself is such a mythology. America itself is such a mythology that when people see black people seceding, they gotta, like, you gotta, like, figure out, like, oh, how did this happen? It's like, he's just better. Like, it's just, like, they're just better. Like, it just, you guys were bred to be bigger. Yes, that's kind of how slavery works. When you breed a certain part of the population to be stronger, faster than you, their descendants tend to be bigger, stronger, faster. I was telling somebody in a chat today, like, they do make the founding fathers look like the Avengers. I was telling somebody today that what we're seeing right now in our lifetime is literally just like white supremacy getting mad that it got destroyed and, like, flipping the table over. Like, that's what we're going through right now. And I think tonight is really going to help us see it. I think tonight's really going to help us see it. You have a privileging. No, bro, we're just better, bro. This is one of the things. I even talk about this in my manifesto. And yeah, we're going to get started right at the top of the hour. But I talked about this in my manifesto, how, like, sports are so great. And the reason why sports are so great is because this is one thing that I hope America always keeps in its culture, is team sports. Because team sports is like the great equalizer. No. Once we know the rules and the refs are doing their job, it has nothing to do with race. It has nothing to do with anything. This is why everybody's kind of excited for Cooper Flag or in the NBA. I think everybody's excited, black people included, because it's like, no. Like, sports is great because race doesn't matter. Background doesn't matter. You got to get out there and you got to hoop. If you can hoop, it is what it is, you know? We'll stick to making cheap. Yeah, man. Yeah, I think, listen, the mythology of America is coming down, and a lot of people don't like it, but we got to deal with it. We got to deal with it as a people together. And I think we're going to. But make sure you guys are hitting that like button. We're going to get started here in less than 1 minute. At the top of the hour, we're going to get started with the National Unity Conference. Make sure you guys are hitting the like button, sharing it. Thank you guys. Man, we got up to like 100 people a second ago. I know it's not that many right now, but I think once we get into the meat of it, I think that's pretty cool for not even having started. By the way, thank you guys so much for showing out at the last National Unity Conference. So what we're going to do, okay, it's 7. Boom. Welcome everybody to the National Unity Conference. Go ahead and hit that like button for me. Go ahead and hit that like button. If it's your second time here, hit the like button. If it's your first time here, hit the like button if you don't know what's going on tonight. If you're just stopping by, you just doom scrolling, and you see some guy in his car. All right. My name is Gabe the Great, and I host these every Sunday and Tuesday night. Every Sunday and Tuesday night, we have the National Unity Conference. And I started these things because I got tired of saying we need to be unified. We need to be unified. And I decided that, hey, we're going to be unified. I'm going to do the unifying, right? And that's really what we get on here and talk about, because I believe one of my gifts to society is public speaking. For those of you guys who follow me, you know a little bit about my background. I grew up in a cult, eventually worked my way up in the cult. And like at 24 years old, I was a church leader inside of a cult, but I had like full control over people's lives, like tell them where they live, who to marry, who to date. So I have a background in public speaking. I have a background in leadership in that way. That was over a decade or almost a decade ago that I left that environment. And, but one of the things I tell people when you're coming out of a cult is you got to figure out what's good, what's bad, and what was evil. And a lot of times what happens with cults is that we talk about it, they brainwash, they hijack you. And so even when you leave the cult, a lot of people stay in the cult because the programming is so deep. And we're going to talk about programming tonight because America in a very real way operates under that same kind of way. Okay, but here's what we're going to do. I'm going to go through some announcements really fast. And then I'm also going to do announcements at the end because I'm pretty sure that we'll get more people as we go on. But again, welcome to the National Unity Conference. My name is Gabe the Great. We are here to unite the country around a pro-human manifesto. We go through my manifesto. It's called the Overman's Manifesto. You can download a copy of it at the link in the bio, mercyformaya.com. Link in the bio if you want to click that. As you guys also know, I will be petitioning the United States Supreme Court later this summer. So lots of love and support for that. If you want to support that, we also have a GoFundMe. My daughter, I got 7 eyewitnesses who saw my daughter get, I don't know what words I can use on TikTok, but mistreated by her special education teacher. And when we went to go sue the school district, our case was dismissed because we didn't have a lawyer. Because realistically, those type of cases, if you haven't done any research, literally cost millions of dollars. It costs millions of dollars to hold a school district accountable if you ever find something out. Sometimes hundreds of thousands if you want real justice, right? If you want a little 5-figure, 4-figure payout, you don't have to pay that much. But if you want real justice, it takes years and millions of dollars. So we wanted to do it without a lawyer, right? That case got dismissed in a federal district court. I appealed it up to the 9th Circuit. They affirmed the lower court's decision. And so now later this summer, I will be petitioning the Supreme Court. And we're going to be telling the Supreme Court, hey, listen, man, if you do not give us a civil way to defend our children, we can't recognize your government as legitimate. We cannot recognize the Constitution. We cannot recognize these laws as legitimate laws. I should not have to pay 6-7 figures when I have 7 eyewitnesses who can tell you exactly what happened to my nonverbal autistic child, right? And so a lot of people don't understand, but this is where we are at in American history. We are not at like, oh, our country is kind of been a bit. No. We are at a place where it's like, listen, if you don't have money, you don't exist to these people. If you aren't rich, or if your skin color isn't a certain way, or if you don't hold certain beliefs, your life is not important to these people. This is where we're at in American society, and we can't just sit back and let it happen. We have to go take the fight to them, and we have to let them know. We have to start coming together, unifying, help each other plan, support one another, and start looking towards a vision after this, right? I was with a group this morning. I don't know if you guys know about the General Strike USA, but I've been working with them. Yeah, take cash out of the banks. I think that's one way. Yeah. But I was speaking with them, and I said, I think there are so many of us. We have so many ideas about how we can disrupt the system, from general strikes to boycotts to taking cash out of the bank to so many things. But I think what we're lacking is, okay, after we quote unquote win, after we get our victory, after we disrupt the system, then what? And I think our mistake, and we're going to talk about tonight, is that we always depend on the bad guys to change. And we're going to talk about tonight that it takes a lot. You literally have to force the bad guys to change. And if you do not force them to change, they do not change, okay? But we all come together around this manifesto. Again, link in the bio, mercyformaya.com, if you want to get you a copy. So we're going to go back through some announcements at the end. I'll go for about 20, 35 minutes. And then at the end, questions. We can chop it up. We can hang out. Yeah, gotta have money to hurt them. And that, well, not necessarily. And we're going to talk about that right now, okay? So one of the things that I want to talk about, the people are in power are not going to give it peacefully. Exactly. There you go, Infinite Evolution. Let's talk about that. The title of tonight's lesson is Consumerism is Slavery Perfected. Okay? Consumerism is slavery perfected. So as I was saying earlier, what up, Liam? As I was saying earlier, later this summer, I'm going to be petitioning the United States Supreme Court. Okay? And if you join my Patreon, I'm going to be releasing early drafts of that petition to the United States Supreme Court. It's pay what you want. I think the minimum is like $2. I really do believe in the pay what you want model. I think that is going to be a model of the future. Because think about it. If we no longer have to slave for food, if we no longer have to slave for healthcare, if we no longer have to slave for the basic necessities of life, people setting price points don't even matter. I genuinely believe that on the other side of this pro-human society is a pay what you want model. So my Patreon is pay what you want. I think the minimum I could do was like $2, but it's pay what you want monthly, whatever you want to do. Anyway, I'll be releasing some of my early drafts of my petition to the United States Supreme Court. One of the basic argument that I'm making to the Supreme Court is that our legal system is nothing more than this barbaric art of legal theater, right? Because intuitively, everybody knows that money is the only thing that these guys respond to. Everybody knows that if you are a wealthy, white, male, Christian, this society is pretty much for you. And we're seeing that all the time. I've talked about it here on my TikTok. One of the issues with the United States of America, they just got no defense for wealthy white men, right? We know, like, internally that the justice that we see is not true justice, right? That the laws that are written, that there's laws for the rich and then there's laws for the rest of us, that there's laws for the wealthy elites and there's rules for them or no rules for them, and there's a bunch of rules for us. And so what I call the United States Constitution to the Supreme Court is the Constitution is sophisticated barbarism. It's barbaric, because barbarism is the absence of civilization. And what the United States Constitution does is it gives the illusion of sophistication while totally doing nothing in light of cruelty. Like, I think because a lot of us was born in the 80s, 90s, 2000s, we really do not understand that every single right that we share today was paid for in blood. That at no point in American history did the United States Constitution guarantee any rights for all people. And that's one of the things we're going to talk about tonight. The United States Constitution was not written for a diverse population of 330 million people. But instead, what the Constitution does is cruelty hidden behind refined language, a polished system, and legal theater. Think about the Three-Fifths Compromise. Think about how you were taught about the Three-Fifths Compromise in school, that, oh, the Three-Fifths Compromise was a way to, balance power. It's like, bro, if you telling me I'm 3/5 a human being, I genuinely don't care what your reasoning is, right? Like, that's America. Let me give you logic, reasoning, and rationale why these people were enslaved and why it was necessary. But then once you go back and read the history, you begin to find out that every single right that you share, that every single right that you have today was paid for with blood, right? And that's the first thing I want to talk about, that civilization, American civilization, was not built by the Constitution. It was built by blood. It was not built by the Constitution. What we have today was not built by the Constitution. It was built by blood. I want to remind you that unless you were a landowning white male over the age of 21, you did not have the right to vote at this country's founding. That means poor white man. As a matter of fact, poor white men did not have the right to vote, and they didn't get the right to vote until they were willing to die for it. Go look up Dorr's Rebellion, D-O-R-R Rebellion. It was from 1841 to 1842. Go look it up. This is not just rich, poor. If you are a poor white male, you only have the right to vote because men like you were willing to die for that. And they had to die because the Constitution didn't give you the right to vote. Women voting. We know about women. Alice Paul, go look up her hunger strike. Look up Inez Millie, right? She collapsed during a speech trying to get women's the right to vote, and she later died. She became a martyr for the movement. Again, if you are a woman enjoying the right to vote, that was not given to you by the Constitution, that was given to you by somebody's blood. The weekend. You know how we work Monday through Friday and we get the weekend off? Yeah, that was paid for in blood too. Look up the Haymarket Affair, 1886. Look up the Ludlow Massacre, 1914. Just your ability to have the weekend. I want you to understand that your founding fathers, that the people who built this country, again, we're talking 1914, 1886. We are talking 100 years into America. Poor people did not have a weekend, and they did not get a weekend until they were willing to die for the weekend. Civilization, American civilization, was built by blood, not the United States Constitution. Slavery. I don't even need to get deep into that. The bloodiest war in America, right? Here's one I found out about my research. Clean water and sanitation. We think what's going on, like, I just heard that they got things going in Flint. It still boggles my mind. That's from the Obama administration. But turns out, if you go look up the Great St. Louis cholera epidemic, 1849, took out 10% of the population of St. Louis. And the United States government didn't step in until it started happening in the bigger cities like New York and Chicago and everything. Thousands of people died from preventable diseases. 1,000 people died from preventable diseases. Your right to clean drinking water, your right to sanitation, somebody had to die for that in blood. That's not guaranteed by the Constitution. Public education, right? We already know about segregated public schools, but even in 1844, the Boston riots, where the Catholic Church wanted to say over public education, and people rioted because they didn't want Catholics determining public education. Again, public education as a right, that did not, they did not want you to be educated. That was not given to you by the Constitution. It was paid for in somebody's blood. Here's the biggest one: the basic legal recognition of non-white citizens. The basic legal recognition of non-white citizens. That didn't come to the 14th Amendment, and the government did not start enforcing that until the Civil Rights Act. So a lot of us need to understand, bro, like my mother, I'm 36 years old. My mother, when she was born in segregation. She was not born with all her rights intact. I am the first person of my family line to be born with the right to vote, to be recognized as a citizen, even though I'm not white, to have public education. I'm the first one. I don't care how free you think America is. It is a lie. And it has been that way since the beginning of the country. And a lot of people are upset about the big beautiful bill. And guys, I fully understand. I understand why people are upset about it, but we need to look at this from a new perspective. The other side is just taking the mask off. They're just taking the mask off. But at no point in American history did you not have to force these people to give you rights. Every class of people. Every class that was not a wealthy white male. Every single one. The United States, that includes the brown citizens, that includes the Asians, that includes everybody. Everybody had to have a group of people who had to die for their recognition in the United States of America. What you are experiencing right now in 2025 is just the continuation of the United States of America. The difference is we got cameras and we can play it back over and over and over. But the United States government has been doing this to its people from its beginning. Again, on Sunday night, we talked about 250 years. Only what? 27 amendments? 10 to 12 came right away. So 15 in 250 years. This government has not moved very far. And every time it has moved, somebody had to die. Okay. Again, the 14th Amendment was signed in 1868, and it took over 100 years and 4 different acts, the Civil Rights Act of 1960, 64, 65, and 68, before the 14th Amendment even started to get applied. We need to understand that the American civilization that we see was not built by the Constitution. It was built by blood. What we see here is the result of thousands, millions of people coming before us in the United States of America going, we want the same rights as those people. We are human beings, and it's no different in our time. But, right, this is why I said, we talked about the title today, Consumerism is Slavery Perfected, right? Because you got to understand the civil rights era, right? I know it seems so far away from us, but it was a buildup over time, right? The women's suffrage thing happened. Oh, thanks for the roses. The women's suffrage movement was happening. The children's labor movement was happening. All these other things were happening. And so then you have the 60s and the Civil Rights Act, and it's like, okay, finally they can't discriminate against us for race, class, sexuality, all these things, right? And it begins to open up a wave, right? Eventually, gay people get the right to marry, right? All these things happen. But something else happened in the 60s. Is with all these civil rights passages in the 60s, is that the barbarians figured out that, wait a second, we got to flip the strategy. Because now we need to figure out a way, how do we get these people to willingly be our slaves? They are demanding rights. They are dying for these rights. And we just can't keep killing people like this. We lose our credibility. So now it flipped. Capitalism was always there, but that spirit of consumerism, we really began to see that take off 70s, 80s, 90s, and now today it's just part of life. Consumerism is just part of American life, right? And so consumerism is the belief that consumer spending is the primary driver of economic growth and societal well-being, right? Is this belief that, hey, if people are spending money, that means that society is doing well, right? And it's also this way of life in which people define their identity, happiness, status, and even morality through consumption, right? We find identity through what we wear, drive, eat, and display, right? This spirit of consumption. And what this spirit of consumption does is, in a very real way, it turns us into our enemies. It turns us into the barbarians in a very subtle way, because our entire life becomes about consumption, consumption, consumption. I talked about this earlier, is that one of the problems we have in America is that we want to consume our leaders instead of follow them. And it's because we don't have that collective consciousness, because America has always been a war, as we talked about earlier, right? Thank you for everybody showing. Thank you so much for the likes. Those likes really help out, so continue to like these. But let's talk about 3 ways that consumerism turns us into slaves, okay? Number 1, okay? Actually, let's read from this, because this kind of deals with all 3. If you got the Overman's Manifesto, I'm on page 63. I'm going to read the end of 63, a couple paragraphs of 64, and like 3 paragraphs on 83. This is the Overman's Manifesto. Link in the bio, mercyformaya.com. Overman's Manifesto by Gabe the Great, okay? But let's talk about money right here, okay? Here we go. Money is not evil, but our worship of it is. In a society where most people have lost faith in anything greater than themselves, money has become the most worshiped God. It dictates where we live, how we're treated, what we're worth, who gets to be heard. It has no intrinsic value, just paper, pixels, and metals. But we've built entire systems to convince ourselves that whoever has the most of it must be the smartest, strongest, or most capable among us. That is the lie. Money, a medium through which we're supposed to exchange goods and services with, has become the measuring stick of meaning. And yet, the people who hoard the most of it, who bend policy and power towards accumulating more of it, are often the ones who suffer the most profound existential poverty. Because the truth is, if you need billions of dollars to feel significant, you are already spiritually bankrupt. Our current system treats money as a proxy for worth. We reward hoarding over healing, status over service, accumulation over actualization, and worst of all, we've structured society so that access to money determines access to justice, education, healthcare, and opportunity, which means we've locked humanity's most basic needs behind a paywall and dared to call it freedom. That is not freedom. That is enslavement. So this is the culture that we live in. The culture that we live in here in the United States of America is that money determines everything. And we genuinely believe as Americans, part of our psyche, part of being an American is that's just the way it is, right? Every question we ask in society is, how are we going to pay for that? Right? We've become these people who can't even imagine a world or a possibility where money is not at the root of everything. But for thousands, hundreds of thousands of years, it was. And other countries are figuring out, money is important, but we don't got to put healthcare behind a paywall. We don't have to put education behind a paywall. We don't have to put meaning itself behind a paywall. The only way that these guys can put meaning and healthcare and education behind paywalls is if they have a population who believes that they're free, but they're really slaves, right? So here are the 3 ways in which consumerism turns us into slaves. Number 1, it destroys our connection to humanity. We start to see others as competition, content, threats, or objects of envy, right? So if you think about white supremacy, racism, fascism. It is humanity afraid of humanity. I talk about this in my manifesto that diversity is humanity. Because if diversity wasn't humanity, then we all would be the same. You know, one of the things, like when you're in a cult, and I shared earlier about how I grew up in a cult and eventually became a cult leader. But I tell people this all the time. When you're in a cult, it's not just one day you wake up and get it. Like the whole time you're in the cult, you're questioning, right? And so I was in a Christian cult. And we taught that, hey, we got to make disciples of all nations. Everybody's got to become a disciple of Jesus. And one of those questions that would just burn in my head, that no sermon could ever take out of my head, was, if we all become like Jesus, if our purpose is to make disciples, and then everybody becomes a disciple, like, what do we do now? What becomes our purpose, right? And this is one of those things where it starts to unravel the lie on which you're building your life upon, right? This one of the things that help you start to understand that, wait a second, I'm missing something. But diversity is humanity. And what consumerism does, it destroys our connection between humanity. Bro, I hate going shopping at grocery stores now, because you go to grocery shoppings at grocery stores. You got to have your own bag. You got to do your own checkout. It's like there's no humanity. I'm paying for food that is overpriced and probably poisoned. And it's like there's no humanity in going grocery shopping. You go to a mall, it's empty. There are just it used to be going and spending money was a human activity. You weren't just interacting with machines. You had to go and meet someone and talk about what's the products that you have here. People were knowledgeable people were passionate about their job, right? Even at Walmart, even at the local corner store, people were passionate about where they worked because it meant something to their local community. Now it's just like there's no human connection. We're just there to consume. I'm here to get what I get and leave. And so now we got to bring our own bags. We got to bag our own groceries. There's no more human connection, right? Community is transactional, right? God becomes a lifestyle brand instead, or God becomes a lifestyle brand, right? This is the other thing, the elephant in the room. Like, we know people are just using religion for power. Like, this is why in my manifesto, I talk about Christianity, because it is spiritual narcissism as is practiced in the United States of America. I don't have an issue with Jesus. I think the Bible is a great wisdom book. I think it's a great book. I think arguably, you could say it's the greatest book in human history, arguably. But how Christianity is practiced in the United States of America is spiritual narcissism. People just use God as a lifestyle brand to signal to people. People say, thank you, Jesus, or thank God, just so that other people will be on their side, right? Identity is performance, right? You are what you can buy. If I can't buy it, I don't feel like I'm worthy. If I can't afford to go on vacation, I don't feel like I'm worthy of a vacation, okay? Number 2, so the first way it turns us into slaves, it destroys our connection to humanity. Number 2, it breeds indifference and apathy, okay? We're not just distracted, but we're numb. One of the things that it boggles my mind about American society is, why are we even arguing school lootings, right? I don't know if I can say the real word on TikTok Live, but school lootings, right? I've had so many in my lifetime. I was a kid when Columbine happened. I was in elementary school. Like, I remember like what that was like. Like, I don't have a time period in my life where school lootings wasn't a thing. And for the life of me, I go, why is this a debate? Who stands on the other side of innocent children losing their lives? I go, yo, there's just an indifference and an apathy towards humanity that the founding fathers had about the rest of us. That's the only way you can engage in slavery. That's the only way you can build a country that doesn't outlaw slavery. That's the only way you can build a country that doesn't give women the right to vote, or thinks that children should work 12 to 16 hours a day. Thousands of children had to die before humanity said, yo, we can't, children shouldn't work in factories. There's just an indifference we have. We're not just distracted, guys. We are numb. It no longer affects us when we hear about injustice. Again, one of the things that breaks my heart so much is that, again, I have a GoFundMe that I've been trying to raise money for 2 years. And I've only raised $1,700. But then I live in a society where a woman can call an autistic child the N-word, and I watch her raise nearly $800,000 in a week. And I'm like, there's just we're numb. We're not just distracted. We're numb. We hear stories about my daughter or about other people's children, and we're just numb to it. We're not even distracted. It just doesn't bother us anymore. Just like the barbarians we're trying to fight, right? They don't chain our bodies, they numb our minds. Gratitude gets replaced with greed. It's never enough. It's never enough. One of the greatest acts of resistance you can do right now in the United States of America is being grateful for the life you have. Why? Because it's the only one you're going to get, man. As far as we know. It's all you're going to get. But consumerism, you're constantly, I need more, I need more, I need more. No, be grateful. Listen, I may never be rich and famous. I may never get the justice I need for my daughter. But man, the life that my daughters have allowed, the love that I've been able to experience from them, the fact that I can come on and look at, nature, like, this is dope, man. This is cool. I can talk to a piece of plastic and 123 people can care. That's cool, bro. And this is what you got. That's an act of rebellion. It's an act of rebellion to tell the ruling class, bro, the stuff y'all think is wavy, we just don't, bro. We don't need to be rich and famous to get a lot out of life, bro. I watched a squirrel eat a nut the other day. Bro, it was the most fascinating thing in my life. I felt like I figured out the secret of life in that moment. Like, I don't know what to tell you, bro. Like, I watched a squirrel eat a nut the other day for 17 minutes. And I was just like, this is the coolest thing ever. And it's because I was just grateful. Like, bro, this is, I may not be able to do this forever, bro. I may not be able to do, this is great, right? The soul becomes fragmented, right? We begin to compartmentalize everything. So who I am at work is different than who I am at line, which is different than who I am with my partner, which is different than who I am with my mom. We become compartmentalized. The soul becomes fragmented, right? Faith gets replaced with FOMO. Again, the present is never enough. And presence gets replaced by urgency. Again, consumerism has taught us that right now is not enough. That we need to go get more. We need more. We need more. And so it's in our pursuit of more that we get frustrated at the people who have more. But what happens if we're content? Right? Then we can have clarity. Then, no. It's not about the fact that you're rich. And it's not even the fact that you're white. That's not my issue. My issue is the words that we use in society don't mean anything. Justice is not real. That's my issue. I don't have an issue if you're a bad guy, but my issue is you don't have the guts to live authentically to that. I've always said, as a black man, I will always respect the street nigga. I will always respect the dude from the hood versus the dude in the boardroom, because the dude from the hood is authentic. You know who he is. You know what he's about. You know what he stands for. Society can label him a thug, gangster, whatever. He's authentic. You know who he is. You know what life he about. You don't go over to the street nigga expecting whatever. But the dude in the boardroom, he's gonna lie, manipulate. He don't got the courage to be who he is. My issue ain't black, white, rich, or poor. I don't care if you rich. My issue is money means nothing in our society because you got your wealth by cheating. And I wake up every day and I try to live authentically, with integrity and honestly. And I work. That's my issue. If I don't get no more money, I'm cool, bro. I love my daughters. I love my life. I found out how to be content with what I got. I don't need nothing from y'all. My issue is you've destroyed the meaning of our society, right? And so when we stop becoming consumers, we need more, we need more, we need more. We go, wait a second. This ain't even about injustice. This is about protecting what we already have, right? My whole thing to the United States Supreme Court is I'm not negotiating the safety of my children with you. I'm not negotiating. So however y'all want to handle this, we can handle this. But the idea that I should negotiate the safety of my loved ones with people who are only in power because they cheated, with people who are only in power because they got a head start, with people who are only in power because of connections, like, no, you're just a lesser human being than me. I don't know how else to say it to people. I think so low of these people. I genuinely think they're beneath us. And the only reason why they're ahead is because they lie, because they cheat, because they steal, because they have to use misinformation. They have to use disinformation. They don't have a choice, because if people knew who they really were, if they had to live authentically, we wouldn't even give them the time of day. And that's what consumerism does. Consumerism forces us to care about the things they care about. You don't really care about being rich and famous. You don't really care about hot people on an island backstabbing each other. But that's all we talk about on our timeline. You don't really care that somebody getting paid $100 million a year to play basketball. You kind of think it's absurd that people who are 7 feet are getting paid hundreds of millions of dollars to put a ball through a hoop that's 10 feet in the air. Maybe that's broken, but genuinely, I don't care. If the sport's great and I can have a good time with my family, let's figure out a way to make it work. But it's like when you stop being the consumer, you go, wait a second. I don't even want what y'all want. I don't even need what y'all say I need. I'm happy here, right? Let's close out here. Number 3, the third way. So the first way, they destroy our connection to humanity. Number 2, it breeds indifference and apathy. And number 3, it turns us into barbarians, right? We stop being meaning makers and instead become image driven and self-obsessed. It's all about what people think of me. Every time I post, every time I do something, I got to worry about what other people think about me, right? Time becomes monetized. Life is a hustle. Life is a hustle. Our time is money. Time is money. No, it's not. Time is not money. We finding out time might be an illusion. We are wasting time. Like, bro, I can't tell you how many times in the past year that I've just like, now I'm an independent contractor. I've just like stopped working during the day, bro. It's like, no, I just reject it. I'll figure it out. I will figure out how to pay these bills. But I'm rejecting this idea that time is money. If something in my spirit it's not about being lazy. It's about, bro, this time is not money. No. But that's how they want us to live, because that's what it is to them. To them, time is money. Life is all about accumulating more than other people, so other people will respect you. I don't need to accumulate more than other people for them to respect me, right? The sacred is profane. Everything gets commodified. Love, sex, spirituality, race. Everything gets commodified, right? The self is a brand and compassion becomes consumption, right? So again, the 3 ways consumerism turns us into slaves. Number 1, it destroys our connection to humanity. Number 2, it breeds indifference and apathy. And number 3, it turns us into barbarians, okay? So I'm not just going to leave us there. I'm going to give us one final thing to talk about how we overcome this. And if you guys are liking this, please hit the like button. It definitely helps. We got a lot of people here, man. This is one of our I think this was bigger than last time. Last time we got up to like 120 something. I think this time we got up to 130 something. That's been right around 80 to 90 people for the past 20 minutes. So it's really cool. Thank you guys so much for coming. Please like it. We do this every Sunday and Tuesday nights, 7 p.m. At right here on my TikTok, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. If you guys want to support Mercy for Maya, there's ways you can support there, GoFundMe, things like that. But let's go ahead and end this out, okay? So if you weren't here for the whole thing, thank you guys for the roses and the gifts. We started off, tonight's lesson was about consumerism is slavery perfected. And we started off by understanding that, one, civilization was not built by the Constitution, it was built by blood. And we talked about how every single right we have in the United States of America, somebody had to die for. If you are a poor white man, a non-land-owning white man, your right to vote, somebody died for. Doors Rebellion, 1841. Women's rights to vote. Alice Paul, Inez Me Holland. I might be pronouncing that wrong. But they had a hunger strike, and one lady died from giving a speech. The weekend. You like having a weekend? You like working Monday through Friday to being off on the weekend? People had to die for that. Look up the Haymarket Affair, 1886. The Ludlow Massacre, 1914. Again, these are over the course of many years. Children not working. Look up the Cherry Mine disaster of 1908. The thousands of kids died working 12 to 16 hours a day in the 18 to 1900s. Think about that, guys. Just for the United States of America to recognize children as not property, it took hundreds of years and thousands of people dying. None of our rights were given to us by the Constitution. Slavery, Civil War, right? Clean water and sanitation. Look up the Great St. Louis Cholera epidemic of 1849. Took out 10% of the population or affected 10% of the population of St. Louis. Public education. Read about the Boston riots in 1844, right? People did not want the Catholics controlling education. And number 8, the basic legal recognition of non-white citizens. Guys, the 14th Amendment was in 1868, but it wasn't until the Civil Rights Acts of the 80s that people who were not white had a legal recognition. Every single right you have, somebody had to die for. And so my last point here is one final bloodshed. I have said this, and I truly believe this with all my heart. I really believe this, what we're going through right now, is the final boss level fight of white supremacy. It doesn't hold up anymore. The illusion is gone. There's too much history. And I've been telling people, we have to stop putting our faith in the United States Constitution because it explicitly was not written for my black ass. If you a woman, it was not written for you. If you are poor, it was not written for you. If you are disabled, it was not written for you. If you are a child, it was not written for you. And the only reason why you share in any of the rights of the United States Constitution is because people died for it. And thousands and millions of people had to die just so the 330 million people living in the United States could share of any of the rights that we have. And I truly believe that because we have cameras, a lot of people are like, oh my gosh, we are surveillance. Guys, that's the point. We have the cameras. They will never be able to debate originalism in 2025 if we all come together, unify, and get behind one message that goes, we want a pro-human constitution. We want a constitution, right, that represents all of us. I call it covenantal government because I believe that government is nothing more than a small group of people who make a promise to the people to uphold and enforce their values. That's what government is. We put our values on paper, and the government understands you are nothing more than the body of people who have volunteered, agreed, and won our favor to uphold our values and enforce our values. That's what we're going for, okay? But to understand how to get there, I'm not gonna, BS you. Just to get where we're at now, people had to die. And I believe that this final push is the last bloodshed, because this, for me, this big, beautiful bill is nothing more than the wealthy elite going, we're taking the mask off. We are going to lie. We are going to manipulate. We are going to do whatever we want, and you people can't do anything about it. You cannot negotiate with immorality. And we've been trying to negotiate with immorality for too long. We've been trying to call it fascism, capitalism. It's anti-human. It's anti-human. If you want something for yourself, just for yourself and not for other people, if it's not like super personal, it's anti-human because we're all connected. But here's how we do it, okay? Page 83 of my manifesto, we'll end here. Death. You were born into a world that promised you nothing but guaranteed you one thing. You will die. Before you ever knew your name, the clock started ticking. And yet you lived your whole life as if that clock wasn't real. As if death is something that happens to other people, as if your time here is limited. But here's the truth. Death is the most honest thing the universe has ever given you. Death strips away the illusion. It cares nothing for status, money, politics, or gender. Death does not flatter you. It does not take bribes. Death is the only judge no one can escape. And that's why death is so terrifying to people who live in ego. Because ego cannot survive it. Ego wants to write the ending, but death writes its own. And it doesn't ask for your permission. In a society ruled by narcissists, death is the enemy because they build everything to deny it. The Botox, the legacy portfolios, the over-engineered mythologies of heaven and hell. Death is not the enemy. It is the mirror. It reflects the one question you cannot lie your way out of. Did you live? Not did you survive? Not did you play the game? Not did you perform? But did you live? See, people think death is what makes life meaningless, but it's the opposite. Death is what forces meaning. If you were immortal, you delay everything. You waste centuries. You never wake up. But death makes time sacred. It makes every breath sacred. It makes truth urgent. Death is not the villain. Death is the fire, the catalyst, the hand that breaks the hourglass and demand you choose. Will you sleepwalk to the end, or will you make your life echo into eternity? Because here's the secret. Death cannot kill what is fully alive. You know, as we close out this kind of lesson here tonight, when we talked about how, listen, every single right that we have, somebody had to die for. And I want to help people understand something about death. Is I believe that not just death, but also eternal life. I believe that one of the things that motivates greed is the quest for eternal life. I want to be remembered by everybody. I want people to recognize me. That's why we want fame. That's why they want status. That's why they want power. They want the universe to operate within them, to bend to their will. And they do everything to avoid death. It's all about looking younger, living forever, building the business and the brand that's bigger than yourself. But your death is where you no longer get to write the story. People don't understand this. And I genuinely don't think like Donald Trump understands this. But when he goes, like, his legacy is going to be destroyed by all of us who are left here. And I don't think people understand that. Is these cameras make it so that history is going to be clear. History is going to be, you may lie in this lifetime, and that's fine. You may live inauthentically during this lifetime. You may live as a coward during this lifetime, but these cameras, the next generation gets to watch history. They don't read about history, the next generation. They don't read about it. They can destroy as many books as they want. They can do everything that they can to manipulate and use whatever language and misinformation. But these cameras right here, you guys don't get it. If we are going to have to give our lives for real rights, for recognition of basic human rights, what I'm trying to tell you guys is we have an advantage that the people who came before us didn't. We can use these cameras to make sure that the next generation is fully equipped and we can live forever, so that if we give our lives to something worthwhile, they will continue to talk about us for centuries on. Again, To me, Martin Luther King has achieved eternal life because we speak of his life. The same thing for all the people. I talked about a few people here tonight, right? Alice Paul. She has eternal life because she gave her life to something worthy. The Dorr Rebellion. This is someone who is talked about. This happened in 1841. It's 2025, and we are talking about this man's life. That's eternal life. You got to understand, the United States of America has never given anybody outside their caste rights. And we can't be afraid of death, because death cannot destroy someone who lived for something meaningful. And that's what we got to do. We got to stop thinking, okay, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? And we got to decide, how are we going to be while we are here? And if that means, if being a father who's going to defend his nonverbal autistic daughter means I got to challenge the United States Supreme Court in my lifetime, that's what that means. But it's going to mean something, and it's going to matter. That is our act of rebellion. That is our act of resistance. That's how we get out of consumerism. It's by deciding I'm going to live for something. I know America wants me to believe in their version of freedom, their version of status, their version of financial. I get it. I'm going to live for something deeper. I don't care if my daughter doesn't have a voice. I don't care if she's nonverbal. You're not going to take advantage of my daughter without me saying something. You're not going to take advantage of my kid without me starting a movement, so that when I die, because nobody gets out of life alive. Not if I die. When I die, they will be able to check the footage and know, oh, that man lived for something. He lived for something. He tried to start a national unity conference. He wrote a manifesto. He challenged the Supreme Court. He did it all pro se. And maybe nobody hears about me for 50 years, 100 years, 150 years after I die. Maybe the Overman's Manifesto isn't appreciated in my lifetime. But when you live for something bigger than yourself, when you live to create meaning for other selves, not just manipulate selves to yourself, they can't kill that. We are forever going to talk about Martin Luther King. We are forever going to talk about the Civil War. We are forever going to talk about all these things. And there's nothing they can do about it, because people gave their lives for this stuff. So that's how we fight. That's how we get out of consumerism. It's not, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? It's, how are we going to live today? What meaningful thing am I going to live for today? What am I willing to die for? I'm not dying for a life I hate. I'm not fighting for a life that I don't like. I'm not fighting to work a bunch of hours and barely get any pay. I'm not fighting for that. So if y'all want to pass a big, beautiful bill and say F y'all, cool, bro. But I'm not fighting to keep this life. I will fight and I will die behind creating a life that works for me, my children, their friends, our community. I'll fight for that. I'll die behind that. But I'm not dying behind this sophisticated barbarism that we get called civilization. So went a little bit long tonight. But man, we got up there. I kept going because we got as high as 140 people, or 153 at one point. So man, thank you guys so much. Good. I'm happy. It's been reinvigorating and grounding. That's my goal, man. That's my goal. My goal is to inspire people. I really believe this is not just a political thing. This is a spiritual thing that we're going to. So I'm very happy that it spoke to your spirit. Hopefully it spoke to a lot of people's spirit. Thank you so much for the gifts. Like it. Hold on. I'm still here. Thank you, Eric. Thank you. We do this every Sunday and Tuesday night, 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on TikTok. My name is Gabe the Great. Again, you can get a copy of the Overman's Manifesto, what I was reading from tonight. Link in my bio. This is my manifesto. It's a pro-human manifesto, and the vision that I see for the world after we get over this, after we get through all this BS. right? Because again, it's called Project 2025. They don't have a plan for after 2026. They don't have a plan. And so we, the people, can now sit down and take advantage of that and go, hey, let's do it, right? Even if we don't, quote unquote, accomplish it, if we live for it, other people will see it, right? That's what true humanity is. True humanity is accepting, listen, I don't control everything, right? They live in this world where, ooh, we can bend the law and we can just pay this judge. And that's how the world they live in. They live in this fabricated world. And it's like, all right, y'all keep fabricating stuff. We're just going to build a different society, right? I was discussing the big, beautiful bill with somebody today, and I go, wait a second. They're basically, and again, I'm not saying that we shouldn't be freaked out about it and it's not bad, but I'm always looking for a different perspective, because one thing that I learned from the cult, and I tell people this all the time, the biggest lesson I took from being in a cult, and feel free to chime in. This is Q&A part. This is, y'all want a question asked, answer, whatever. If y'all want to chop it up, this is what this part's for. But I tell people when I left the cult, the biggest thing that I learned was that truth doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what you believe is true. It's the only thing that matters. Because I tell people this all the time. When I was in a cult, it wasn't that I thought I was going to heaven. I knew I was going to heaven. Now I don't even believe in the concept of heaven. The concept of heaven seems like weird to me. But a decade ago, oh, I knew I was going to heaven, right? And so if people want to live in a reality, and that's the scary part about being a human, you can live in whatever reality you want. You know, I tell people, like, I think 100, 200 years from now, 500 years from now, America is going to be like a medical term to describe like social, like, conditioning. Because the way we all think that, like, yep, cults all for certainty. Yep, I have a whole section in there about cults in my manifesto. Because the way that we all believe that the United States government is for, like, freedom and democracy and liberty, when it's like, yo, you could just read a history book. Like, people died for everything we got. But the reason why I'm like that is because I've been on the other side of a cult. And so I understand how much work goes into social engineering, right? Because I've been on the other side of social engineering. I've been on the other side of, like, we gotta, get this information out. We gotta indoctrinate people with this and da-da-da. You don't think about it like that in the moment. But when you take a step back and you're removed from the cult and the ideology, you go, wait a second. Everything that I thought was the truth was really just indoctrination. And people were creating in me a almost like unconscious way of distributing propaganda and indoctrinating people, right? And that's the same way that the United States works. Like, our education system, how everything is marketed to us. It's all underneath this huge mass propaganda and, social engineering. I mean, again, the history books will tell you, like, Adolf was literally inspired by us. But America has done such a good job of social engineering, bro. Like, America is a 250-year social engineering project that I think that way beyond our time, I think people are going to look back and go, they're like the same way we look at Rome or the same way we look at the Egyptians. Like, we forget, like, we're going to be somebody's Egyptians. We're going to be somebody's Rome. We're going to be somebody's, like, the borders are going to change. Like, America didn't even look like America 100 years ago, or in 100 years before that, it was totally different. Like, we forget, like, that's what I'm saying. Like, consumerism gets us in this ego state where we think like everything begins and ends with us. And that's why America feels the way it feels, because it's ran by people who they get to actualize this idea of, like, oh, I can bend society to myself. And so you're chasing that freedom. And even how we view freedom, we think freedom is I can control everything. That's literally the opposite of freedom, right? Freedom for everybody means your ops get freedom too. And when we have freedom, we got to come up with rules that everybody follows that we can maintain the freedom. Because if we can't have something that maintains the freedom, then we won't have it. If your freedom imposes upon another person's freedom, nobody has freedom anymore. And so, yeah, I think it's one of those things that we're going to change over time, and it's going to be good. But hit that like button, man. Thank you guys so much. Man, you still got 100 people here? Y'all niggas like me? Aw. Aw. Oh, I got an audience. Popular live. Look at this. Am I one of the more popular people on the app right now? Last time I did a live, it said that my live was better than 97% of lives this way. But yes, if you guys want to support, download you a copy of the manifesto. Link in the bio, mercyformaya.com. I also got my Patreon over there. I want to come on the road, man. I tell people, if y'all got 10 people, I will get in this taxi and I'll drive to you. Because I think that's where the movement gets started. The movement gets started when we start moving. The movement gets started when we start meeting in person. We start talking about real things, real world things. And because that's where we begin to see how easy it is to resist. We got to get off the phone and we got to start meeting in person. Because that's where things get really good. So I'm in Oregon. So if anybody is in Oregon, want me to come speak, California, Washington, wherever, if y'all got at least 10 people, I'll show up, man, and I'll get us energized. That's my contribution. When I left the cult, like, I stayed away from public speaking, leadership for the longest. I still am working on my relationship with power because I just had an unhealthy amount of power at 24 years old. Thank you. I appreciate it. At a young age, like at 20, like, bro, being the voice of God at 24 is like nuts, bro. It is nuts. And I think I'm just now starting at 36 to learn how to have a healthy relationship with power. But one of the things that I had to accept when I left the cult was that, you know, a lot of times people want to blame the cult and attribute a lot to the cult. But I often tell people when it comes to cults, you're both a victim and a co-conspirator. And so the cult was able to use my talents, the talents that I brought into the cult that I already had a part of my identity. And I gave that to the cult. And a lot of times what happens when people leave, they just want a completely different life. And I can understand that and getting away from that. But I had to understand that one of my gifts was speaking to people. And I just have this for whatever reason. And I'm still trying to like come into it. Because there's a part of me that just doesn't want to lead. You say cult? Blue oyster cult? No. Yeah, no, cult. No, it's a Christian cult. International Churches of Christ. International Christian Churches. I was evangelist for them. I'm actually suing them right now. Or one of them. Run. Yeah, I'm out. I've been out for about 10 years. But, yeah, it's one of these things, like, when you're in there, it's like, man, you really, I've had to understand that, man, I do have a gift to, like, speak to people and help people, and I see things from a different perspective. And it is a unique gift of mine. It kind of sucks at this point in human history because it's like, I think I live in a time period where there aren't many people like me. And sue anyone with imaginary friends. But that can be scary. Like, there's a real scary aspect of leading. Because it's like you're on the front line. And history is very clear. Like, leaders are getting jailed and, you know, executed. Like, that's just what history tells us about America. But I always tell people, like, you have to decide how you're going to live because you don't get to decide how you're going to die. And if being authentic, if being real, if being, you know, having the ability to rally people, invigorate people, ground people, if having that ability makes me an enemy to people, then it is what it is, man. I can't. We're not going to live forever. Like, nobody gets out of this alive. And so I think a lot of us, I talk about it in the manifesto, where I think a lot of us we're like afraid of death, and we're afraid of our own shadow, and we're afraid of the future. And it's like, it's gonna come. You either gonna survive or you're not. Like, we're humans. Like, I got kids. I got offspring now. Like, I got to protect them. I got to protect them so they can have offspring, you know? I think that's why being a grandparent is such an accomplishment to humans. Like, I've seen people become parents and not change, but then I've seen people become grandparents and like radically change. Like, it's kind of weird to see, like, when your offspring have children, I think something else happens to human. Because I remember when I had my first kid, I remember when I had my first child, I remember people told me like, oh, when you have a child, like, you're going to change. And I'm like, duh, like, I'm going to be a father. Like, but no, bro, like, and any parent out there, you know what I'm talking about. The first time you hold your child, yeah, something magical happens, bro. It's magic. I don't know what to tell you. I don't know. If you don't have kids, I don't know what to tell you, bro. The first time you hold your newborn child, something happens. Just something clicked. I don't know what happened. I can't describe it. I don't have no scientific way to explain it to you. But any person who's ever had a child, you hold them for the first time, and it's like humanity makes more sense. It's like reality. It's like you get a reset. It's really weird. And so I imagine having a grandchild, like, that is like another experience where it's like, whoa, that came from me, right? Because I be telling people all the time, like, bro, like, one of the coolest things about being a father is like looking at my kids do something cool and be like, damn, bro, they used to live in my balls, bro. That's kind of crazy, bro. Like my 3-year-old be doing her puzzles, bro. I think she's the coolest human being in the world. I don't know what to tell you about it. I don't know. I really don't want to watch what they got on TV, man. Like, watching my kids do figure out reality and learn the world and helping them navigate. Like, I'm sorry, bro. That just seems cooler than like what Elon Musk got going on. It just seemed like a lot of wealthy people can't stay sober to like stay alive. Like, how do you have everything we're supposed to chase and you still not happy? But I'm sitting here barely paying bills, bill collectors calling me every 45 minutes. And I'm just like, nah, bro, I can watch my kids exist and be like really happy with life. And that's why I'm so passionate. That's why I'm taking my case all the way to the Supreme Court. It's like, bro, I'm not negotiating my children's safety with you niggas. Like, y'all don't lost y'all mind. It's not happening. I'm not doing it. No. We are not negotiating the safety of autistic children with the United States government. So whatever consequences come with that, bring them. But we not negotiating. And it becomes powerful when you do it loud and when you do it on camera. Because there's an aspect of this where it's like, bro, I assume some of us are going to be taken out. But what happens when they retaliate? We all go look at the person. We all go look to see who they were, what they were about, what did they live for. And I've done nothing but in 2 years keep track of evidence, make music, write manifestos, lead national unity conferences. Music, write manifestos, lead national unity conferences. It's like that you expect to die. And a lot of these guys, like the ruling class, have set up a life in such a way where you just never die. And it's like, no, bro. Death is a great part of humanity, right? It's what makes us human, and it makes life matters. And that's why I go, bro, like, I don't have time to sit here and have my nervous system deregulated by my government, bro. Like, legit, bro. Like, no, bro, I'm not doing it. I'm 36. Let's say I got another 40 years on this thing. Y'all not about to dysregulate my nervous system for 40 years. Like, honestly, even if I don't know what's on the other side of death, I would rather take that than have my nervous system deregulated for 40 years. It's not about to happen. No, put me in a box, give me 3 hots and a cot, and I'll figure out life there. But you about to dysregulate my nervous system and for 40 years and lie to me and use disinformation and misinformation and probably no. I'm not living that way. And I want to help other people understand. It's like when everybody's like that, there's nothing they can do, right? When we with our lives go, hey, you can lie, but like, we not gonna take it. Like, you can think you gonna pass that bill. You go ahead, pass the bill. We not gonna comply. Just not gonna obey. Like, what are you gonna do? You're gonna use up all your, like, bro, I was looking into the things of it, and that's the thing. That's the other thing, like, I be thinking about, like, the guy that they got leading them, like Trump, like, he lies so much, and he's such a, like, trying to display something that he's not. Bro, if you look at the ICE budget, right? And I could be wrong, right? So I don't claim to be a political analyst. There's people who know this stuff better than me. And as I always say, in a pro-human society, we got to learn to defer to the experts. So if there are actual experts who know this next topic better than me, defer to them, okay? I'm just a guy with an opinion at that point. But when I was, like, kind of trying to dig into the big beautiful bill, and particularly understanding that ICE part, because that ICE part is, if anything, that's the most threatening to me, right? Or to all of us. It's like, wait a second, if they just start snatching folks off the street, right, without due process and anything, that really becomes like your nervous system is messed up. You're just living in a constant state of fear. So I looked it up, and over the next, what was it, 3 years or something like that, the field agents are supposed to go from 10,000 to 30,000, like the actual ICE field agents. First thing I said was, wait a second, they only got 10,000? Like, that is a lot for me, like a local city. That is a whole lot. But if all you got, your secret police, which is how people are kind of like talking about ICE right now, like they're the Gestapo. If all you got is 30,000 in a country of 330 million, and like you guys have been making it easier for us to get, like, to bear arms, honestly, we just need to unify. Like, honestly, like, I'm just like, honestly, let's just unify. Let's just unify. Like, if ICE was expanding to millions, if there were going to be millions of ICE agents, to go from 10 to 30,000, I just want to offer a new perspective. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I got it all together. I just did some research. We got more gang members than ICE members. Like, get them brothers off the street. Hey, y'all responsible for meal programs. Y'all responsible for being the local militia. We'll pay y'all a stipend, right? Bro, if you do that with just Chicago and LA, you gonna have more than 30,000 people in your militia. If you extend that to biker gangs, to these gun gangs, like, bro, we good. I just want to offer people a different perspective. Because what I know from being in a cult and being on the other side is there's a lot of bluffing. There's a ton of bluffing. This is why on the international stage, like, Trump earned the nickname of Taco. Because there's a lot of bluffing in America. And so when you start, wait a second, they only have 10,000 right now, and that the bill is only going to get them up to 30,000, like field agents. That's interesting. Like, what if we just doxed them? Like, we can't. Like, I did a TikTok earlier today. Like, guys, the Underground Railroad was illegal. The sit-ins were illegal. The boycotts were illegal. There is no, I'm gonna change the word here, but there is no legal or non-silent way to get justice with the United States of America. Again, they've whitewashed MLK. MLK walked around with that tool on him. They whitewashed my mans, you know. But it's one of these things where I want to, you know, invigorate people, offer new perspectives, and go, okay, guys, they are coming after us, but let's get our nervous systems back. Let's regulate ourselves first. And then let's just put our heads together, come together, and see what we can do. All right. I'm going to get out of here because I'm going to go spend time with my girls before they go to bed. Thank you guys so much for coming. Another great one. Again, I'll be back here Sunday at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. On the Mercy for Maya website, that link in the bio. But thank you guys. Another big success. I will see you guys Sunday night. Peace.